Hello, we're live. My name is Sean Snowday. You all know me, Coach Marketing Mastery. We're here with Seth, the Red Neo. Hey, welcome, Seth.
Great to be here, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to be going over pretty much all things AI and then copywriting and how, I don't know, I think this is going to be super cool because a lot of people think that copywriting is dying because of AI, and you're actually saying it's far from the truth. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you say that.
Well, I'll start out by talking about me. I'll try to give you a short version of the story. I've been writing sales copy since before I knew what sales copy was when I was a music teacher in college. And the story I always tell people is that I bought this $99 product from a magazine. And I don't know to this day why I bought, well, I know why I bought it now, but I bought it. I spent like 99 bucks that I didn't have on it. And there was something about the page, the words on that page that made me want to buy the product. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that somebody wrote something that made me want to spend money. And so I thought, well, maybe I can do that when I'm writing ads and postcards and flyers for my music studio. So I just went through there and kind of reverse engineered what was in the ad. And I wrote, some ads, and I started filling up my music studio, and that's how I put myself through college. But I didn't know what copywriting was. Long story short, that journey continued as I went to be a sales manager for call centers, where I rewrote sales scripts for people and broke a bunch of sales records just by rewriting the scripts. I got then into direct response marketing and one-on-one coaching. I, as of now, have more than 30,000 plus hours of one-on-one coaching experience where I've helped people improve their messaging, their conversions, their targeting, their ascension ladder. And throughout that time, I have studied language and studied psychology and human nature. And I've also studied different types of copywriting formulas, to where over the past 20 plus years, I've created this kitchen, this collection of copywriting formulas that takes a person from being a perfect stranger who has no idea who you are to someone who's willing to buy from you again and again and again, using these psychological formulas that have been encoded into these templates that I created back before AI was around. And then when AI came along, all I did was started dumping my templates into AI and telling it to, fill in the blanks that we would normally do manually. And that's how I developed what I call the anti-fragile sales system, which is just this huge kitchen of copywriting formulas that you can use to create literally entire sales funnels in 30 to 60 minutes. And when I say sales funnels, I mean like something as complicated as a webinar funnel, all the way from the ad down to the follow-up emails, everything in the funnel within 60 minutes. And these are very high converting. I actually have 3 offers right now that are converting at 10% on cold traffic from the AI copywriting formulas that I've used. So that's what I've managed to do with it. We can get into the second question, cool, which I actually forgot.
Mark just showed up. I'm going to bring him on board.
Okay.
There he is. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
All right. So we just, we're already live, and thanks for showing up. And Seth told us just a little bit about himself doing AI copywriting, how he started out. But this is all about AI, and it's all about you two. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what are we going to put? Well, so this is, again, I forgot, the AI innovations in the revolutionizing business. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your AI experience.
Sure. So I'm Mark DeGrasse. I'm CEO of an organization called AI Branding Academy. Most recently, I was the president of digitalmarketer.com. So basically, I've been in marketing education for years now. Prior to that, I actually had an agency for about 6 years. And what I found is that most marketers and most organizations face the same marketing issues, which is a lack of cohesion and a lack of cohesive branding throughout the entire organization. And the fact of the matter is that having cohesive brands was only the business of like billion-dollar companies, because they're the only ones that can afford it. But with AI, we're actually able to kind of centralize your marketing and branding decisions to a single expert, and then propagate it to all the different aspects of your marketing system. So we basically develop tools and frameworks to help people implement AI at any organization, no matter how small, and still accomplish the same thing that, say, a Nike or Amazon or Apple can accomplish.
Right. So, Seth was, so I was the face of digital implementation solutions for GKIC. And Seth is a big GKIC Dan Kennedy guy, doing a lot of copywriting for the past over 20 years, couple decades. And then now he's brought that into the copywriting world. But he says that copywriters are far from danger with the new AI coming out. So can you guys, or Seth, can you tell us a little bit about that and how you guys see that coming to fruition now and running that in business?
Well, I didn't mention this, but the kitchen of AI copywriting formulas that I've been developing over the past few decades is the only copywriting system of its kind that was endorsed by Dan S. Kennedy. He endorsed it in the foreword of my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System. So he, as you know, is extremely skeptical of things like that. But like I said, I developed this before AI came along. And what I'm finding is that there's two different ways you can think about AI. You can think of it like a vending machine, where you just put the prompt in and you use whatever comes out. That's the poor way to do it for a couple of reasons I can get into, mainly because AI does not know how to write sales copy and it doesn't know about marketing. It has very, very good computational power and speed, but it's learned everything it's learned from the content on the internet, most of which was created by people who are not experts in marketing and who are repurposing other people's stuff who are not experts in marketing. And there's this incestuous dilution of content out there on the internet, and AI has learned from that. So I like to treat AI as a very intelligent, very fast machine that is highly misinformed and needs to be co-piloted with someone who understands the principles of direct response. And that's the second type of paradigm you can have. You can have the vending machine attitude, or you can have the co-piloting attitude, where you work in conjunction with AI and you use your wisdom and your experience to guide AI in creating the right output.
Right. And Mark, you got a lot. I went to your website. It's got prompts all over the place. I actually used a couple of them. So how do you use AI in your on your website? Tell us a little bit about your prompts and how you apply them and how they're used and how they help people.
Well, you know what? It's funny because Seth actually touched on this, where it's, if you put junk in, you're going to get junk out. And the fact of the matter is, even if you have a system in place, if you're not constantly implementing it, then AI is just going to give you the average answer for the entire internet, which usually isn't very good. So what we try to do is we try to put, a gate around the AI to say, hey, don't just go online and grab a bunch of junk. Stay within these parameters. And then what we tend to do is categorize content. So like this morning, somebody was asking, like, how do I make my website navigation? And I said, hey, website navigation is a perfect opportunity to implement branding, but it has to reflect the brand. So not only should it be custom, but it should reflect the message that you have for your audience, the call to action you have, the content you have, all these different aspects. And with the right prompt, where we actually start all of our GPTs that we develop always start with the same question. It's, what are your brand pillars? And so we develop these kind of 9 different parameters of a brand. And before you do anything within any of the apps we create, we actually have you input that information first. That way, okay, now I've trained the AI. And then the next step is within the GPT is it's restricted by the categories of content. So we say, okay, here's the 6 types of navigation menu. Here's the outlines for those menus. And here's the reasoning behind using each one of them. And then the user simply selects, like, okay, that category fits my brand. We've now trained the AI to know what our brand is. And now here's the navigation that you should do that reflects the brand and is actually useful for your users. So it's exactly what Seth said. It's if you just ask, like, make me a navigation menu, you're going to get the same crap that everybody's been using forever, because it's just drawing on the average. It doesn't rate the information. So if you want to use it right, we always say you got to train it properly, you got to restrict it properly, and then now you have useful AI that gives you content that's valuable.
Yeah. And Seth, how does that align with what you're doing? Now, just so you guys know, I'm not the AI guy. I'm the automation guy. So I'm learning everything right now.
Well, what Mark just described is something I call a ground truth, or your brand profile, I'm starting to call it. It's a collection of documents that includes your writing style guide, knowledge about your audience, their psychographics and demographics, your brand origin story, what I call your brand lexicon that has your weird little nicknames and metaphors that you use to describe stuff. And then it has all the salient pain points, myths, secrets, all that stuff that typically goes into each stage of the buyer's journey. And so you have a collection of documents as a foundation that you start from, and that becomes like your kitchen of ingredients that AI pulls from and creates those constraints. Now, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I've been making a prediction over the past few months that a time's going to come within the next 12 to 18 months where that is going to become standard for marketing firms, agencies, companies, and academia. I don't know what they're going to call it, but some influencer is going to get a hold of that idea and mainstream it, and it's going to be called either brand profile or something else like that. But it's going to become a rite of passage for using AI. I think right now the people who are pioneering it are trying to sell people on that concept, because people are still thinking that AI is a super intelligent computer that you just push a button on and put a prompt into and boom, magic comes out, which is far from the truth.
Yeah, Mark, you're kind of on the bleeding edge of that right now, right?
We're trying to be. The funny part is that I tell people that we do traditional marketing because I think the entire premise of marketing has kind of been ruined over the last 10 to 15 years because of a over reliance on paid media, where basically all marketers just became paid media managers, specifically with digital ads, where you put in some money and you get some money out. Now, the problem is that AI is now here and it's actually automating that process, which is going to drive the cost of paid media through the roof. And so what happens if you can't actually be profitable with new customers? You got to rely on existing customers or repeat customers. And so our whole premise is that we have to get back to traditional marketing where we create good content, where we innovate our products and services, and we really care about the customer and do the best we can to keep them forever. Now that's where AI comes in, where it's like, okay, doing traditional marketing, which is developing a relationship with the customer, building credibility and authority with your organization, and then consistently executing so people, whether they see an ad or they see, somebody uses a phrase, like no matter what, they should be able to identify your brand everywhere. You can now do that with AI as long as you set these, kind of core parameters in the first place. Then everything gets useful. So it's funny because it's like I don't feel like I'm on the cutting edge. I feel like I'm just bringing people back into like, hey, here's how we used to do marketing. We should do this again. And now it's possible because AI makes it affordable for every organization to do it.
Well, that brings us kind of like, well, what are the dangers that people are running into thinking, oh, I can do this without the proper training or understanding? I'm that guy. I'm just kind of like, write me a book. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and that is the danger is over reliance on the tech. But the solution to it is pretty obvious. Where like Seth said, if you put in a bunch of crap, it's going to put out a bunch of crap. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to be branded. It's not going to tell your story, and so it's just not going to work. And so I think the situation is kind of self-correcting because the people who actually create good content and original content, whether it's assisted with AI, which is kind of what we teach, where it's like, hey, to write an article, you don't just say, hey, machine, give me the top 5 reasons why somebody should use AI for their business. Like that's junk. That's the average answer. What you need to do more specifically is, hey, here's my brand voice, here's my brand values, here's my brand parameters, and now here's my concept. We use AI in 5 different ways to improve marketing departments. We break them down into the visual components, the written components, the interactive components, the experiential components, and the community components of a brand. Now I need you to create an article with all 5 of those components, which I'm going to provide a definition for. Write this article. And then all of a sudden, it turns from a piece of crap of just 5 random reasons, usually focused on chatbots for some reason. That's like a common response for AI. But instead, it's like, oh no, here's the 5 parameters. Now it sounds like the brand. Now it's our actual ideas. And now I have an article that I probably would have written exactly the same way, but it would have taken me hours versus what I did, which took me 15 minutes, but it's now on brand and it's now something valuable.
Right. But Seth, when you were developing this with Dan Kennedy and everything, before all this AI stuff, and AI has been out for a long time, but what were the processes that you were using that kind of aligned with what we're talking about before all this?
A lot of split testing.
Yeah.
Because to me, split testing can be used one of 2 ways. You can either use it to find the winning ad and not really know why it won, or you can have one headline that appeals to the need for like a person's pride or their need for personal significance, and another one that appeals to their need for excitement or their need for security. And if the one that appeals to their pride or to their ego wins, that's a selling point for that target market. And so now you're going to take that same emotional angle and thread it all throughout the entire thing. And as you start to do that, you start to realize, hey, people in this niche who buy this type of product to solve this type of problem are usually ego-driven decisions, or they could be an excitement or a greed-driven decision. So understanding like the deeper psychological principles and being able to encode those into the prompts or into the templates only comes from rigorous split testing over a period of like, I mean, I don't know how many split tests I've done, but it's been a lot. That's why I say that AI, even if it has access to all this body of knowledge, it can't sort through it and determine what is the most appropriate for your brand, for your target market, unless you have the guardrails that Mark and I are talking about.
Yeah. One of the things, Dan Kennedy, one of my favorite stories about him is when he wrote the ad for the pianos. Do you guys know that story?
Yeah.
So he was selling a piano, and they told him to write an ad. So he wrote, put music into your life. And it was, the pianos were selling. But what's happening in people's brains with put music in your life was, I have to buy a piano, and then I have to learn how to play it. And then it will put music in my life. And so what he did is he put the letter S at the end of the word put, and it said puts music in your life, which meant, oh, I could buy a piano and whoever plays it, it will put. So just little tweaks like that. So AI doesn't have that type of way of thinking, right? It doesn't. So you have to do these tests, or does it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's intelligent and knowledgeable, but it's not wise and discerning.
Oh.
That's why, I mean, it takes really a creative genius to be able to think about that. That's the way it needs to be done. But the thing that AI does do is it takes the tedium out of writing. Because to me, like the best part, and one of my musician friends used to say this, the best part of writing a piece of music or writing a book or writing an ad or whatever it is when the inspiration and the idea first come to you. Everything that comes after that is just like it's that 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. AI does the perspiration part for you so that you can expand your horizons and you can create more faster, because you've now leveraged yourself to where all you're doing is inputting the ideas and it's doing the grunt work for you.
Yeah.
No, that's a great way to think of it, because it's especially for like a launching off point too, because a lot of times when you say like, okay, I need to get started on a project, I have a general idea, and then for me, like I would say, you know what, that idea just takes too much work to even think about, so I'm not even going to start it. Now what I do is I just put in the prompt like, hey, here's a stupid idea, like what are the possibilities with this, and then it gives you possibilities, and you're like, that's trash, and now I don't need to worry about it. Or, hey, that's pretty good, like I could work with this, and then you're able to massage the information into something useful. But yeah, it just takes the launch point and just makes it instant versus trying to dredge up the motivation to get started.
Yeah. So hey, I set aside an hour. How much time do you guys have? Do you have?
I haven't got the full hour.
You can do the
Yeah,
full hour.
cool.
So do you guys want to like talk a little bit about what maybe your flagship speech, give us a little short 5-10 minutes of like the top 10 things or the worst challenges or bad things to do or good things to do, and then put an offer at it?
Sure.
Do you have one, Seth?
Not quite sure I understand what you're saying. Like
Well,
10...
I have something called cold leads to hot prospects while you
Right.
sleep. So I could say that in 2 minutes, or I could say it in an hour. So but it's just the same speech.
Right.
But do you have like the top 7 things that you should do or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't even need 7 though. I can say, I don't know who's listening to this, whether it's an agency owner or a copywriter or someone who's selling a course online or something like that. But there's really only, in my opinion, 3 categories of things you need to be wildly successful online. You need an offer that makes strangers want to buy from you. And I tell people, even as a copywriter, you cannot out copyright a bad offer. If your offer is bad, your copywriting can be stellar and it still will not sell if the offer is bad. If your offer is really good, even average copy will sell it. So that's how important a good offer is. You need to have that. And so what I have people do is just come up with I have actually an AI training that comes up with 10 offer ideas. It takes about 30 minutes to do it. And then I have AI templates that are built in Go High Level, and I have AI prompts that create all the copy for every single template. It took me about 12 hours to create 10 funnels for 10 offers, launched them with paid ads on Facebook, $10 a day for 10 days. Okay, so I spent $1,000 and I found 3 offers that were converting. One's converting at like 8 point something percent. The other one's at 13%. And that's the only way to find a winning offer. I mean, you're not going to guess right the first time, but you can very quickly find out what it is. And so that's one of the solutions that I have for people to find their winning offer. The second thing you need to find is the right funnel for promoting it. Because you can have a really great product or service, and if you pick the wrong funnel for promoting it, your conversions will suffer and you'll lose a ton of money. I just talked to somebody last Friday who had someone who did what I call hammer nail marketing. That's like Maslow says, if you have a hammer, you treat everything like a nail. Well, this person was really good at Facebook lead generation, filling out a form and then calling them with getting a hold of those people with appointment setters and setting appointments on their calendar. They were really good at that type of funnel. It did not work for the niche of the woman that I was talking to, and she lost like $20,000. This person was thinking this is going to work because it worked over here. Yeah. I picked the funnel, whether it's a webinar, VSL, Tripwire, or retargeting funnel, based on the person's stage of awareness, which I talk about in my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, and Eugene Schwartz talks about in Breakthrough Advertising. And if you match your funnel to their state of awareness and you have a winning offer, you have a much better chance of converting people. And then the third thing you need is you need a back-end system that gets them to buy from you again, and it gets them to ascend up the value ladder and spend more money with you. Because the people I know who are scaling to 7 figures online, they're usually making either a little bit of money or breaking even or losing a little bit of money on their first acquisition. And I tell people the purpose of the first sale is not to make a profit. It's to earn a customer. And you have to have a back-end system that can convert those people into someone who will buy again and again and again. You have all 3 of those things and you're in the money. But every single one of those requires you to know how to use AI to very quickly find those things out. And of course, the funnel, you have to have good copywriting, and that's where my formulas would come in.
Yeah. So the title of this is Revolutionizing Your Next Big Project. So if you were to like say everything you just said, like summarize it, what would someone do to revolutionize their next big project? Mine, by the way, I do events. I'd love for you guys to speak at one of my events. We speak here first because first I need to know that people have a good microphone. I don't know if you've ever had a speaker like I had a guy literally go. This is when I first was starting out with my podcast, and I'm going like on 60,000 downloads. He goes, "Hold on a sec. I'm buying some shirts." He was at Nordstrom's. Okay, but all that set aside. When it comes to revolutionizing my next big project, which is the events, what are some things that people would do in summary of what you just said?
Well, if you're trying to get strangers to buy from you, if their project involves getting strangers to buy from you, you need to have the right funnel and the right offer to do that. So the first thing you need to find is the right offer. If you don't have the right offer, nothing's going to work. Right now, what you could do is you could just take the first 3 chapters of my book, put them in something like Claude AI and say, read this book, learn from the author, and then brainstorm me 10 offer ideas. And it would give you 10 offer ideas. Yeah. And then you have to test those. So that would be the first thing that I would do if you really want to revolutionize your next project. I mean, because other than that, you can take years to try to find out what the right offer is. And even when you find it, you may not know why it works. You haven't compared it to other offers out there. Then when you get the right funnel, I mean, I've put together these templates and formulas that you can create a funnel within 30 to 60 minutes using the templates, the copywriting formulas that I've created. But you have to pick the right funnel. Well, if you don't want to like read my book or read somebody else's book and learn how to pick the best funnel or read Eugene Schwartz's book, you could actually have AI take like the chapter to my book or Eugene Schwartz's book or whatever it is, put it.
Was that me?
Here's my offer. Pick offer and tell me why it's the best funnel. And you could do all that within an hour. Then the last thing you need is a copy.
Right.
I think something happened there during that.
Yeah, it kind of glitched, but that's all right. The wonderful world of digital internet. So yeah, so then how would people find those
Well, my book is the Anti-Fragile Sales System at the antifragilesalessystem.com. And right now you can get the book for $1. It's a 700-page book. It's got everything that I could think of that you need to know about marketing. And some people wonder, why would you sell it for $1 if it's so effective? I know that people who buy that book are going to need more help. They're going to need my other trainings, my coaching. I don't mind giving it away for $1. That's where you get started, but you're going to need someone to work on it with you, or you can just, try to do it yourself. But I require everyone who coaches with me or enters my membership program to start with the book, because if I don't teach other people's systems, I haven't found one to be as effective as this one. And I'm not saying that because I think I'm somebody. I've just stepped in a lot of piles of dung, and I know where they all are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the pandemic really hurt a lot of us marketers and automation guys, because then everybody was at home with nothing to do except go on the internet and go, oh, now I'm a coach. One of the things, and I'm going to get with Mark in a minute, but it's when people go into a conference and they hear a speaker and then they come outside and they like, oh, this is, and I'm like, but you got to fulfill that. Like I get 35 to $5,000 a month, and I got to fulfill it. I just can't say, give me money and then not be able to fulfill these, offers that I have. And it's sad that people ruined it for us. I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but AI can do that for us as well. So Mark, with what's your flagship speech or your main thing that you talk about?
Yeah, so we talk about the AI branding framework, and basically it's a set of components that you build and then you basically query in order to make decisions in regards to your marketing and your content. I'm a big organic content person, so what I realized was that if you don't have the brand set, that nothing you do after that really matters, because it's not part of your brand. Now, could it be an effective campaign? Yeah, it can be an effective campaign, and we see brands like that all the time, where you get all on board. You're like, oh man, this brand's awesome. I saw this ad and it looks so cool. And then I bought the product, and there's this big, separation between what you thought you were buying and what you actually bought, because that was an awesome ad campaign, but the actual organization is crap. So I said, okay, well, if we're going to get rid of that component, you have to start with branding. And so once you have the brand, and again, what we do is we have the 5 style guides, and then what we call the brand pillars. Brand pillars are the 9 components that we kind of started this conversation with, where you're talking about your brand name, brand slogan, core brand values, customer avatar, brand voice, and basically, and this is nothing new. Everybody knows all these things. We just put it into one system. And then what you do is take those components, you create 5 style guides, which I mentioned. You have your visual, written, experiential, interactive, and community. With these 5 style guides, you can actually make any decision within your organization and keep it on brand. And the reason why I created this was because I found that whether I went to like a mom and pop startup or a $1 billion company, it was the same issue, where basically the brand decisions were being made by either the lower level employees, by mid-level employees, by the customer, instead of where it should have come from, which was from the top, in order to keep everything consistent. So that's why we came up with the AI brand framework, where you basically build these parameters, you put them into, we use ChatGPT, but the information can be used by any AI. And then instead of having your employee say, hey, I need to make a new flyer, instead of them saying, okay, well, let's go and do a brainstorming meeting, and then we'll bring everybody together, we'll find out what we should put in it, and then eventually we'll get to the graphic designer to blah, blah, blah. No, that has ruined so many marketing projects that I came up with this system. So it's like, no, we're not going to brainstorm about this. This is a branding decision. We're going to query our brand guide, and the brand guide is going to tell us what should be on the flyer. It's going to give us the content. It's going to give us the layout. It's going to give us the visuals and the fonts and the pictures and all these different components. And now we just saved just dozens of hours of time that would have been wasted. And now we have something real. Now, what Seth is talking about, the kind of offer guide and the funnel, that's a core component. And I would say, yeah, use Seth's system, grab everything, make it all, as cool as you can, but still keep it within the brand parameters, which is, your brand voice mainly is what needs to be reflected, but also the execution of it, because the biggest, kind of separation between what you bought and what you were given is usually the delivery of that. and we see it in marketing all the time, where marketing does a bang up job and then they hand it off to customer care, and customer care just drops the ball because they had no idea what marketing was doing in the first place, or what sale was doing in the first place. And
Yeah.
so if you do both components derived from the same place, then everything goes in line, and you're not having to meet a whole bunch. But it all starts with what we call the brand pillars, which we have a course for how to build your brand pillars. And then that's what leads to everything else. But it has to start there, because if it doesn't start at the top with just the basics, your core brand values. And like I said, we put everything in boxes. So we don't say, hey, just grab the values that you like, which is usually what companies do. Like, okay, I really like taking care of the customer, really like taking care of the employee, and blah 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 blah. It's like, no, your organization can only be good at one thing. So your core brand values, and this is just one example, are you customer centric? Okay, then that's where your core brand values should be. Okay, are you product centric? Okay, that's where your core brand values. Okay, are you growth centric? Okay, then your growth, and then it creates everything so it's consistent. And then once you have this consistency, it makes every other decision really easy. But again, it starts with just making these basic decisions about the brand itself.
So question, so like if you're like doing some scale, so the red light, yellow light, green light, right? So when you're in a meeting and then you're like, well, everything's red and now it's going yellow and we're kind of like going better, and now we're at green light and then we go back to yellow once we're green, right? And some people know what we're talking about. But you're sometimes, like I represented Microsoft for 30 years. So there was times when I was saying, if you guys would just listen to what I'm saying, then this would work. But I was just the little grunt boy, right? So they're not going to listen to me. And you're saying that these meetings, you're talking about the meetings. Do you know where I'm going with this? So how do you get those ideas from that person that aligns with what you're saying and it aligns with the brand? How does that person's voice get added into with the team? How do you bring that to fruition without avoiding the meeting? Let me put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is they have a goal in mind, right? They have a specific objective. Like, okay, we need to sell this product. Okay, that's your objective. Now I just need to understand your brand. And so we tell people like, hey, first step of any marketing project is make sure you understand the brand, which if you have to, you can build the brand pillars with them in 30 minutes. It's not a big task. But once you have that information, then you can say, okay, I understand your brand. I understand your objective. And now you hired me as the professional to do the job. And so instead of me going back to you and saying, hey, what colors do you want to use? And what's the feeling of this? You said, no, you hired the professional. If you hired a lawyer to review a contract, you won't be bugging them about how quickly they went through item 62B, because they're the professional. They will take care of it. And that's why you hired them in the first place. So the goal is really to eliminate the back and forth, because honestly, they don't know anything about marketing. Like if you're a marketer, you've had to deal with so many people telling you information that usually was wrong, but at the very best was just uninformed and inexperienced, because they haven't done this before. But somehow they're going to give you input on how to launch this campaign that they have no experience with. And usually they'll preface it with, I don't know anything about marketing, but I don't like this copy because I have a cat and that cat's named Bobby and your example has Bobby in it. And so I don't like this example. You're like, what are we talking about here? You don't know anything. Why should we even have this conversation? So the end goal is really to not distract the people who want to give unnecessary and unwanted and unuseful input, but really say, hey, instead of me doing this and us having a bunch of wasted time brainstorming something that you don't know anything about, I'm going to tell you why. And AI actually told me how to reflect your brand in this. And so I have the decision. And now we have a result without me having to bang my head against the wall because of having to listen to your input.
Well, see, I want to talk a little bit about that. And I don't know if you guys are into it, but the politics of working with a business or a team, and also the bottleneck. So the bottleneck is not always the owner. I mean, 90% of the time it is the owner, but then you're going to get that one person at the front desk that is like, well, from my
Sally, the receptionist. I talk about her all the time.
Yeah, I showed it. I showed it to my stepmom, and she didn't like it. So
Yeah.
maybe that changed.
So how do
Yeah.
you guys overcome that, or what systems do you have in place to where that's like, okay, well, we said this here, because I run into this all the time, especially since I'm an automation guy. So I use this software called Go High Level or Keep, and well, then that person that is customer service has the username and password, so they can, and they're like, oh, I could do what Shone does, and I'm like, there's no way. Oh, sure, I just do. And so how do you guys avoid that, or how do you, the bottleneck, how do you deal with that, and how do you take care of it?
Well, that's the whole automation of decisions that I was talking about, where basically you say, hey, I don't need your input. And you could describe it to them however you want. But if you say, like, hey, AI is literally the average answer of the entire world, right? It's driven by our content for the last 10, 20 years. And so what I'm doing is actually gathering more information than you could possibly give based on your opinion. So instead of saying, hey, I'm testing my concepts, or I'm drawing the information from random opinions, or even my personal experience, I'm using Magic AI Machine, and Magic AI Machine is guiding me to do this, and I can provide any justification you want through it. And then this is why we're moving forward. Now, am I saying generate everything through AI? No, I'm just saying, hey, if you need something to point at, you could say, hey, this is why we're not having this meeting, because I have this magic machine that does all the brainstorming for us. And now it's more efficient, it's better, and it's less biased than you and your team could ever be. And so we're going to skip all that. And I'm just going to give you the product you asked for.
And you tell them that in advance.
Oh, well, you start it. You start again with the brand pillars. You say, hey, I need to understand your brand. I need to understand your goal. And that's it. If you could do this yourself, you would have, because it'd be cheaper than hiring me. So that's why I'm here.
He's talking about managing expectations, which is, in my experience working with ad agencies, the number one reason that their clients leave them is their poor expectations management. They're not setting expectations in the beginning. Will the experts, this isn't Burger King, we're not going to do it your way. If your way worked, you wouldn't be coming to us, right? So this is what we're going to do. And you constantly have to reset those expectations every single meeting. But if you've gone back to the beginning, you say, remember when we first discussed this, we signed the contract, this was the agreement, they're less likely to fight with you about it. And so it comes from just upfront setting what the expectations are. And I think it's also making decisions based on data rather than feelings. Because if I say, okay, these are the core KPIs we're going to look at, this is going to tell us whether our ad's effective or not. You may like this ad better, but let's go ahead and, if you insist, let's split test it. Put them next to one another. And if this one wins, math doesn't lie. So we're going to make decisions based on data, not based on feelings. Because I've seen people do this where they'll say, we need to redo these ads. These ads are old. And I'll be like, well, other than being old, are they performing poorly? No, they're not. Well, then don't mess with them.
Right.
Make decisions based on numbers, not based on silly things like how old they are, whether your stepmom visited the page and said she didn't like it, or a dog didn't like it, or whatever.
Yeah. One of the things I hate the worst is, and I wrote something called your inner critic, which is, well, I hate when people market to me that way. So I would never market that way.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well you're not your target.
Why they're marketing to you that way?
You're not your target market. Your marketing is not for you. It's for your customer. Your branding is not for you. It's for your customer. That's a very self-centered way of looking at it.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm the only one with horror stories, but I had someone that their admin kept getting, it's called throttled, right? So we ran a campaign for Paul McCartney, Ocean Robbins, and Anthony Robbins, and generated 100,000 leads in one day. And this is back when they were in Infusionsoft. There's no way that you can generate 100,000 leads, in just a few hours. But when you got these guys, right? And so it's called throttled. So they turn off and they did this on a Friday, by the way, when they close. So what we had to do is we had to manipulate all this stuff to get. So I had a client that their admin kept getting them throttled before they hired me, and kept coming to me and saying, hey, this happened. I'm like, okay, we'll do this because you're in the middle of a campaign. You haven't paid me yet, but I'm trying. you guys know, never do this, right? Never work for free. But you know, I was like kind
So
of
tempting.
yeah, I'm in a mastermind and I pay 30 grand a year to be in there, and they're in the same mastermind. So I thought, hey, we're gonna take care of them. And then next thing you know, I'm online. I go, you know, you kept getting throttled because you know your admin was doing this. Are you belittling my admin? I'm like, no, and it just went downhill quick, right? So what I'm talking about is the bottlenecks and the politics. Do you guys ever, like, when you remove all AI, do you ever run into stuff like that? Just
Oh
as
yeah, it's
entrepreneurs, and how do you overcome those? These are like the tough questions that I can't figure out.
well, it's literally why I created my system, because you know, over the last year, I've taken several like fractional CMO contracts, some for really big companies, and I had projects just I don't call it throttled, I call them grenaded, because we'll come up with the concept, and then we'll go to execute, and instead of it being like a week-long task, it turns into like a 3-month task that
Yeah,
by the time you're finally done with it, nothing has happened, and now everybody's tired, and now it's just like, oh, that was a good idea 3 months ago, and now I guess we'll just not do it. And the problem is that you have companies that are big enough where they can actually do that. They could just be like, what, oh, 50 grand, whatever. I guess it didn't work. Who cares? And
yeah,
so that's why I came up with my system, where I was like, hey, you know, it's all you got to do is execute. And when you hire a company to do something, you should rely on them to do the thing you hired them for. And so instead of, you know, again, brainstorming and bringing all these people that don't know anything, you just say, no, we're going to use AI. We're going to use your input as the owner, as the top person. And then here we go. And it's a little premature because AI still needs, you know, more trust than a lot of people have for it. But the real goal is to eliminate essentially the middle bureaucracy of most companies, because it's just a huge barrier to actually executing anything, because everybody who's in that bureaucracy is trying to save their jobs, and they save their jobs by making themselves seem important and busy. And
Sure.
yeah.
so
That's
and
the
so
thing.
now, yeah, and so they'll do that because they're trying to be involved, and they're trying to insert themselves in a place they usually don't belong, and then all hell breaks loose because of that. So
Well,
yeah.
that brings us to this, and I have two questions. But what you just said is, they're like, I remember. Okay, I remember when computers came out. Yes, I'm that old, right? And so
I
then
remember that.
everyone
I
was
do.
everyone's like, oh, this is going to take my job. Like, I'm not going to be able to sweep floors anymore because there's going to be a robot that sweeps floors and does the mopping and cleans the toilets. So when we get into these, like those businesses that you're talking about, they're like, oh, well, the AI is I'm going to lose my job if I don't make myself look important. So I'm going to politic, and then I'm going to bottleneck, and then, you know, and then you end up, and then they're like, whatever, you know, because they're that
Yeah.
big. And 50 grand is literally what they spend on a prospect to take them golfing, right? So that they can win the bid. So when you're dealing with that, but even with the smaller entrepreneurs with smaller teams, do you run in I forgot the other question, but do you your system, Mark, you're saying that it kind of overrides a lot of that?
Yeah, well, I basically say, like, I'm going to query the system that knows about your brand rather than querying you, who doesn't know anything. And
Okay.
this, you know, I came from website development. So over what, 5 years, I developed 300 brands and websites, primarily myself. And I was constantly having to deal with this problem of, I don't know why we're even discussing this website problem. You don't even know how the website works. Why would we talk about like what navigation you think it should have? That's
Yeah,
ridiculous. That's like me going to my contractor building my house and being like, well, I don't know anything about this, but I
yeah,
think that closet should go over there.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter. And so yeah, especially for them, because, and what I found most of the time with the smaller businesses is if you just present the final thing, where you couldn't do this before, because when I was building websites, I was having to collect content. So I had like genuine content on their website, which was like pulling teeth to be like, you give me a list of your services and a description of each one. Oh, I don't have that. And you're like, holy crap, how do you not have that? So What I did instead was say, hey, just collect the information. You can now generate everything with AI. And then when you go to present, you're not just presenting a piece because you need a bunch of decisions made. You present the whole thing and you say, hey, it's done. What do you think? And they could say, well, I thought this. And most of the time they're just like, oh, thank God it's done. And so it's almost like the system now is speed, where it's like, no, do not do the brainstorming, do not do all of the back and forth, and simply get the job done the way you know how to do it based on the brand that they told you about, and now they can't really argue with it. And it doesn't work all the time, of course. You'll still have those people who
Well,
insert themselves, but a
that's
lot
a
of the
good
times won't.
point. That's a good point there, because eventually what's going to happen is these people are going to weed themselves out, because AI is going to have people moving so fast. These people will not be able to keep up. It's like that saying that I can't remember who said this, but it was at the beginning of the industrial age. He said, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of one extraordinary person. The extraordinary people who know how to leverage AI are going to be moving so fast that the ordinary people, a lot of the people are going to lose their jobs because of they're either not learning the technology, or they're not learning how to leverage the technology. And eventually things are going to be moving so quickly that the only way those people are going to stay embedded in those organizations is if there's some sort of nepotism or something like that, or the person is there because they're liked or they're a relative or whatever it is. And that's where I say that, like, you have to understand human nature well enough to be able to shut those people out of the conversation, figure out who the power players and decision makers are, and say, look, if we're going to continue to work together, and you got to be ready to walk away from the contract too. If you can't walk away from the contract and the decision maker gets the idea that you can't, you've lost all your leverage. But I always tell people that one of the most common problems we have in the modern society is trying to use technology to solve what can only be solved through a knowledge of human nature. And that's going to continue to be true in the age of AI. We're going to still have to know how to handle those types of situations, because those people are always going to be around. And a lot of it comes from, I would suggest reading Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power and figuring out how to figure out who the power players are and to just leverage those people out of the situation. If you can't do that, you got to be ready to walk away.
What was the name of that book? Because someone just posted in one of my communities.
48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I actually read that. I was required reading it on it when I worked there at one of Joe Rogan's companies, and I was like, oh, okay.
It's nuts. I mean, if nothing else, it helps you understand why people act the way that they do in organizations, especially places like Washington. And they act totally irrationally. But once you read that book and you understand what they're really up to, it helps you to make, even if you're the person who's not playing the game, it helps you become an observer, to rise above like the ordinary timeline and to make decisions that are going to help you, get whatever you've got to get done or get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I will say this about those workers that are trying to install themselves is a lot of times with AI, I talk about AI doing the robot work, where it's like, hey, we've been doing robot work as software engineers for the entirety of the history of the internet, where it's like, hey, it doesn't just do the stuff we want. If we want Facebook to work with us, we got to learn how to use Facebook, and we got to get in with the culture, and we got to find all the buttons, and we got to do all this crap. And the same thing with YouTube, and the same thing with email marketing, and the same thing with all these different things. And what we should be doing most of the time is the creative part, the copywriting, the coming up with ideas, the connecting with the customers. And instead, what we're doing is just copying and pasting and then connect. We're like an app switchboard is how I usually describe it, where it's like, okay, you're going to go on this app, do this, and you're going to take it and put it here, and then you're going to take what that makes and put it here, and we're going to take what that makes and put it here. There's no value added for a human doing that. And so I always tell people, that's robot work. This is the stuff we thought robots were going to do, or we thought computers were going to do for us. And now we're just finally gaining the capability, and you're fighting against it. What the heck? You hate your job. Half of us hate our jobs. This sucks to live like this. How about we just do the stuff we enjoy and that we're good at, and then we let computers do the data entry and crap work that we don't want.
Tedious stuff, yeah.
So, hey, I have a question. So with this revolutionizing your next big project, do you guys have a big project coming up? And if so, are you using your own tools to revolutionize it?
A big, I have a book that I'm writing, which is actually going to be the first book I've ever written with AI. People always ask me, because I use AI so much, like, how much of your book is written with AI? None of it. But I've got an experiment where I'm writing a fiction book right now using AI.
So let me ask you a question. Did you write that last book the way our forefathers did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all by hand, the whole thing.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm writing a fiction book using AI just to test this theory of the the author profile.
Huh.
I'm going to be having that coming out pretty soon here. And then I'm writing a book that I was going to write by hand using AI, but I'm looking for a way to make sure that that AI thinks what I call syntopically, which syntopic means that it pulls from multiple disciplines and draws correlations between them. Like, it'll talk about marketing, then it'll equate that with something in quantum mechanics, in ancient Middle Eastern, like spiritual thought, Western philosophy, biology, neuroscience. AI is not very good at doing that. And what I'm trying to do is, that's how I think and how I communicate and how I write. So I'm working on developing a ground truth or brand profile document that can do that. And if it does, I mean, I'm going to be able to write a lot more of the books that I thought I was never going to be able to write in my lifetime.
Nice. So how would people find you and find out about that? And do you have like an offer?
Yeah, well, mine is the antifragile-sales-system.com. That's my book. If you have a business that you want to get better results with, I don't care if you're just starting out. I actually have one product that can teach you how to turn your skills and knowledge into an online business. It builds the entire value ladder for you and everything in 30 minutes. So if you don't have a business, that's the best place to go. But the first thing I tell people to do is buy my book, The Anti-Fragile Sales System, go through the whole funnel. At the end of it, there's a Facebook group that you join. And that's how you get access to all my live streams. That's how you get to, hear me teach, my YouTube channel, like all that stuff you're going to have access to in our Facebook group. So that's the doorway for most people. If you're an agency owner listening to this who wants to get better results and keep your clients longer, there's an offer in that same funnel where you can schedule a call with me. And my offer is that we'll get on a call, show me a client page that's currently getting traffic and that has data, heat mapping and statistic data. I'll tell you a few improvements to make on it. It'll take 30 minutes to an hour call. And I guarantee you that your results on that page will improve within the next 2 weeks. And if they do, then you'll want to keep working with me if I have availability. I'm backed up right now, but those are the two offers I have.
Cool. So what about you, Mark? You got anything coming up?
Yes, we actually have a live event next week. It's called the AI-driven Branding and Marketing Summit, and it is basically teaching what our new big framework, which is called the AI Marketing Department. Essentially, after you build all those style guides I mentioned, the 5 style guides, you build AI with them, and then they act as essentially members of your team for decision making on whatever you're doing. So there's the visual as your creative director. You have your written as your copywriter, and so on and so forth. And so what we're doing at this event is actually sitting down, and instead of just talking about it, we give you the GPTs, we give you the templates, and then we're literally going to be building podcasts and articles and videos using these techniques and then the tools associated. And so that's the big one, is next week. And then a couple weeks after that, we're starting our last boot camp of the year. We've done 3 other AI branding boot camps where we teach the whole system. And then this one's going to be the final one for the year, where we're actually going to integrate the branding with the performance marketing and the content. And again, it's supposed to provide people with a base. And so you could add in any of the specialized strategies you have, and it simply makes the whole system doable with way less people.
Now, are your boot camps face-to-face or virtual?
Virtual. Yeah, it's
Okay.
9 90-minute sessions. And so it's twice a week for a month.
Nice. So what was that again? The AI-driven marketing summit?
Yeah, AI-driven Branding and Marketing Summit. And that's coming up a week from Wednesday in Austin. That's a live event.
Oh, that's face-to-face live in Austin.
Uh-huh.
What part of Austin?
South Austin. It's the A-Loft, Southwest Austin. There's several A-Lofts. But
well, I moved from Austin in the 90s. I got sober there.
Oh, good.
I'd like to say Austin, a great place to hit bottom.
It used to be. Now it's all just corporate and tech and Cybertrucks everywhere.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this. I actually have a workshop tomorrow where I'm going to show people how I used AI to come up with those 10 offers, test those 10 offers. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow at this link that I just put in the chat here.
Okay.
That's a free workshop. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm not even, people can obviously, sign up and buy my products anytime that they want, but I'm not even having an offer on this workshop. I'm showing this to people because I'm so tired of seeing people get beat up by, paid ads because they don't have an offer that converts and they're trying to improve their copy and their funnel and they're trying to improve everything else, but they have a bad offer. So that's why I'm doing this tomorrow at 3 p.m.
So I don't know if that's a published page. Did you go to it? I got a 404.
Hang on. Let me double check it because it should.
I'm buying your book right now, by the way. I'm like, oh, this sounds amazing.
Okay, I'll have to fix that. I don't know.
So we'd love to, and I'll market that out. We'll stream that out. I'll put that out into my communities. But no, this is great. And one of the things for me, I have the automated marketing summit. We just had we're planning on doing this every Friday. And so I'm a Keep partner. So my partner manager, I'm writing 9 campaigns for people that have virtual and live events because no one's done this for some reason. And so I'm going to automate it, write all the copy, do everything, but I got to give the copy to people in like Word or, the format to where they can rewrite it, put it in their voice, and then put it back into the campaigns. But that's really what I'm up to. So that's my next big project. So listening to you two guys, it seems that I can use Mark's stuff to brand everything and then use Seth's stuff to get the funnel going. And my funnels are really simple. I speak from the stage. I go here, opt in, set an appointment, get $2,000 worth of free software. When you show up, I'll give you the content. And I convert about 50% of the stage when I speak. And I close a bunch of those people that show up to the appointment. And a lot of people show up. So I keep it really simple. But I think these things are amazing, what you guys are bringing up. And everyone should check it out. So again, Seth, how do we find you and for your workshop and on social media? And then we'll go with Mark.
Well, you can look up my name on social media. I'm the only person in the world with my name, Seth Cherepak. Its last name is spelled Czerepak. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. The best way to get to know me, though, is through the marketing lens, is to go buy the Anti-Fragile Sales System, the book, join the Facebook group, and actually join the community. I just fixed the link for the workshop, so you should be able to register for that tomorrow.
Yeah. Seth, if it makes you feel any better, I just spoke from the stage and my link was broken.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's
By the way, the templates that I've built import directly into Go High Level. It's just one little thing you click and it imports all my funnel templates into there.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So what about you, Mark? One more time. So you have the event coming up and workshops.
Yeah. So everything's on the website. It's aibranding.academy is the organization, and you can see the event info. And then I do workshops as well. Actually, this afternoon, I was putting that together right now. I'm like, I'll do live brand builds where essentially we come up with a brand, all the brand pillars for a specific topic. So all that info is there. And then my website is markdegrasse.com. I'm on social. Basically, that I put all my education stuff on the academy, and then all my opinion stuff. I have projections and predictions for how AI is going to develop. That's all in my personal brand. So, and I have entire theories about that. It'll be fun.
All right, great. So we're gonna wrap this all up. Hey, I'm gonna make some stuff. I'm gonna make some marketing material for both of you. That's just specific for you that you can blast out to your list. I'm not gonna be involved. It's just my gift from me to you for showing up on this. Thank you so much for showing up to Coach Marketing Mastery Podcast, and I'll see you guys soon.